ironically, is making the one-state solution the only possible solution to this problem. Okay. One thing that I think we need to get away from, I think I've been rather critical of Israel, right? Maybe that's come across. I see this as a very unbalanced conflict between a very powerful army and a very, weak, disorganized nationalist movement that uses homemade rockets, right, versus billion-dollar equipment bought from the United States, right? But I really can't stand the dehumanization of either side, right? When I'm there, right, with my Palestinian friends and colleagues and such, and I'm exposed to this cartoon, it says, Ana Irhabi, I'm a terrorist, and it's a picture of an Israeli soldier with a Nazi flag and a hook-nosed Jew. I say, wow, that's right out of Nazi Europe. That's right out of Europe, right? And we see those European things show up in this, right? And I'm not very comfortable with that, right? It's a racialization of it. Now, that's not the majority image. That's kind of a stupid image, but it's there, right? And it dehumanizes the other side. It doesn't recognize what's going on. I'm not trying to create parity here, but I would object to that, right? And on the other hand, the other thing, to paint the Palestinians as Nazis, as this other thing does, right? Oh, you see the flags? That's also absurd, right? And, there's a perception that this is just another anti-Semitism against Israel, but that's really not to understand what's going on. And, although I might walk through, a town like Amman or something and see some, them selling Protocols of the Elders of Zion, which is a classic anti-Semitic text, I have a lot more experience with Palestinians to know that doesn't represent, the whole movement. That doesn't represent everybody. It's come into the mix now, right? And we have to be really careful that we don't want to be dehumanizing either side, even the one that's sort of the stronger and dominant one, that we need to move more towards a kind of recognition of mutual personhood, right? And we were almost there with Oslo, and it fell apart. I think that there are some movements to do that, and I think this is like one of my last slides here, probably the last one. And here I think are movements that I am very sympathetic with, and some I participate with. I put up here, upper left-hand corner, a group of young Israelis, refuseniks, who are coming out and saying, I'm not going to serve in the territories, right? And there's a whole movement in Israel that's rejecting that. It's not a majority movement, but it's an important minority. I put here, this is some of my own work. That's actually me. And then the olive picking is my wife and I picking olives. There are solidarity movements, international solidarity movements with Palestinians. The middle pictures, the West Bank, you can't probably read them in this room, but those are in Hebrew signs and English signs. Those are Israelis protesting the occupation in the West Bank, creating relationships with Palestinians. A lot of this has formed around the wall in a village called Belin. It's been very important. It's a group Tayush. There's also the International Solidarity Movement, ISM. This is Israelis delivering goods during a siege, okay? On this side, Gaza 2009. George Galloway, that guy in the middle in the top thing, I don't know, the guy with the beard, a British member of parliament, flanked by Cynthia McKinney on the right. She was a former representative and then candidate for the Green Party. And on the left is Charles Barron, one of my city council people in New York. And those are Palestinians waving American flags, greeting the 200 or so Americans who came with British George Galloway to break the siege of Gaza in 2009 during that conflict. So, look, things have gotten horrible in some ways, but this stuff was not going on in 1987, okay? This was not going on when I first got into this thing. This is all over the place now. When I went back in 2000 to Tulkarem, when I went there in the 90s to do my research, I was the only non-Palestinian in the place. It was a total novelty, okay? Since I've been back in the 2000s, there's always a core of 7 or 10 activists, living in Tulkarem, doing activist work, largely Americans and Europeans, sometimes Israelis in there doing that. So this is all stuff that's been happening. It's all, potentials for the future, that kind of solidarity. And I think, I put one more thing here, BDS campaign. That stands for boycott, disengagement, and sanctions, right? And this is sort of the new question that some of these groups want to do. They do solidarity work and they say, should Israel be boycotted like South Africa? Because this ANC called for boycotts of South Africa and you know, to put pressure on that government, and it worked. It was part of the end of apartheid. This one, you know, this is a tough one. This is a tough one for me to say it. And, you know, if I thought it might work to end the occupation and to bring some kind of resolution, I would say, okay, let's see if that works. But you know what? I'll just give this a big topic, right? My quick opinion is it's going to backfire. And that it's, you know, I heard one example of they did a boycott of Israeli wines out in Vancouver. And you know, nobody was buying Israeli wines. But the next thing you know, as soon as it's boycotted, every person supporting Israel went and started to buy Israeli wines. So it was like, well, wait, that didn't work, right? It created the opposite effect. But it's one of the big political questions that are out there today. So I put that on you. Okay, here's some useful websites for you to look at. I put B'Tselem, which is a Israeli human rights group. They have good numbers. If you can't see it, B-T-S-E-L-E-M, B'Tselem.org. Okay? They probably do the best work. They work with Palestinians, but because they're Israelis, they don't get raided by the Israeli army and have their computers confiscated, right? So they're able to collect the data in a strong way. And so it's a resource. Most of the numbers I've shown you tonight come from B'Tselem, this Israeli human rights group. But I also give you the Association of Civil Rights in Israel. They also deal with some of the legal struggles. Israeli lawyers, some Palestinian Israelis, some Jewish Israelis. Haaretz, great English source. It has some right-wing stuff, but it has some left-wing stuff. It's very good coverage, much better than American newspapers on Israeli-Palestinian stuff. Palestinian Red Crescent, it has similar kinds of statistics about what's going on. It's the version of the Red Cross. Palestine Monitor, that's a Palestinian source for all kinds of statistics and data and some of the maps I show also there, as well as Passia, another Palestinian website, all places you can get more information. Okay, so I really thank you for listening to me this whole time. I hope that we didn't go too. I guess we didn't go too fast. It went almost 2 hours, not quite, hour and a half. I hope this brought some clarity to the situation, and I'm open for questions.
Okay, we're gonna do this. Hello, mic check. Okay, we're gonna do this 2 ways here. Now, there's more than enough food for everyone to go out. Trust me, I've seen what's out there. I have $1,000 worth of food. Now, we can do this 2 ways. I feel like I'm giving an ultimatum here. The first wave of people who want to go out, who can't, who are jittery, who I can see them with my eyes right now, who want to get up, eat something, stretch, do that. The remaining people here, ask questions. And then after that happens, and those people come back, you could ask questions, and then the ones who initially were here to ask the questions, you could go up and get food. Is that how you want to do it? So whoever wants to, because I understand how everyone here, I don't want to do this in a very weird way. So whoever wants to ask questions, stay. Trust me, your food is not going. I've seen how much is out there. Whoever wants to go eat, go outside and go eat now. And please come back because this is really where the meat and potatoes of this lecture is, the Q&A, right?
Somebody bring me some. No.
And I'm not going to be there, so me too.
Okay.
So whoever wants to stay, ask questions, stay, and we'll see. So whoever has their hand up, as soon as people leave this room, I'm going to pick on you for questions. I'm going to give you the mic to ask the questions.
Okay, yeah.
All right, well, this goes back really early in the presentation to where you were talking about your idea of nationalism. And it's just, I guess this is kind of more of a comment, and it's also a question as well, because I'm a poli-sci major, so my version and understanding of nationalism is some type of connection to some type of state, and usually that before you can have nationalism, you have to have some type of state to attach it to. So is your version of nationalism, is it more type of like self-determination, like in reference to like the French Canadians and Quebec are trying to formulate their own state, and like the Basques in Spain and stuff. So is it more a self-determination kind of thing, or do you think that your definition of nationalism really is specific to your purpose?
No, my definition is about self-determination, right? That's when I use the word sovereignty. to speak about it. And the idea that a certain people is connected to a certain, you say state, but it really